In the spring of 1947, a young Bedouin shepherd named Mohammed Dib was searching for a lost goat in the rugged cliffs near the Dead Sea. Unbeknownst to him, his wandering steps would lead to one of the most remarkable archaeological discoveries in human history. As he tossed a rock into a dark cave, hoping to hear the bleating of his goat, the sound of breaking pottery echoed instead. What lay hidden in that cave would transform our understanding of ancient texts and the origins of the Bible. Inside the cave, Muhammad and his companions found a collection of clay jars, some sealed and others broken. Within these jars were scrolls wrapped in linen, their surfaces covered in ancient writing that they could not read. The boys, unaware of the significance of their find, brought a few scrolls back to their camp. Little did they know, these fragments were part of a cache of manuscripts that had been untouched for over 2,000 years. The shepherds initially sold the scrolls to a local antiquities dealer, and from there the fragments began to draw the attention of scholars. One of the earliest academics to recognize their importance was Eliezer Sukenik, a professor at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Sukenik identified these texts as ancient Hebrew manuscripts, predating anything previously known. His research revealed that these scrolls contained portions of biblical texts, apocryphal writings, and previously unknown compositions, all remarkably well preserved. As word of the discovery spread, expeditions to the Qumran region began in earnest. Over the following years, archaeologists uncovered a total of 11 caves, each yielding its own treasures. In total, nearly 900 manuscripts and tens of thousands of fragments were recovered. These texts, collectively known as the Dead Sea Scrolls, represent one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. The scrolls themselves were written on a variety of materials, including parchment, papyrus, and, in one case, copper. They were inscribed in multiple languages, primarily Hebrew, but also Aramaic and Greek. The remarkable state of preservation can be attributed to the arid conditions of the Judean desert, which provided a natural environment for protecting these ancient documents. But who hid these scrolls, and why? This question has sparked decades of debate among scholars. Many believe the scrolls were the work of a Jewish sect known as the Essenes, a group that sought to separate itself from the broader Jewish community and live a life of religious purity. The Essenes are thought to have inhabited the settlement near Qumran, where they meticulously copied and stored these texts. Others argue that the scrolls may represent a broader collection of Jewish writings, hidden during times of upheaval to protect them from destruction. The historical context of the Dead Sea Scrolls is crucial to understanding their significance. The Qumran community existed during a tumultuous period in Jewish history, marked by Roman occupation and internal divisions among Jewish sects. This was a time when the Second Temple still stood in Jerusalem, but tensions were rising that would eventually lead to its destruction in 70 CE. Against this backdrop, the scrolls offer a rare glimpse into the beliefs, practices, and struggles of Jewish communities during the Second Temple period. One of the most astonishing aspects of the Dead Sea Scrolls is their connection to the Bible. Among the texts discovered were fragments of nearly every book of the Hebrew Bible, with the exception of Esther. These biblical manuscripts are the oldest known copies of these texts, predating the next oldest versions by nearly 1,000 years. For example, the Great Isaiah Scroll, a complete copy of the Book of Isaiah, dates to approximately 125 BCE and is remarkably similar to the version found in today's Bible. This discovery has had profound implications for biblical studies, affirming the textual integrity of the Hebrew Bible over centuries. Yet the scrolls are more than just a confirmation of biblical texts. They also include apocryphal writings, books that were not included in the biblical canon, as well as sectarian documents that shed light on the unique practices and beliefs of the Qumran community. Texts like the Community Rule and the War Scroll provide detailed accounts of how this group lived, their views on ritual purity, and their apocalyptic vision of a cosmic battle between the forces of light and darkness. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls was not without its challenges. The process of recovering and preserving the scrolls was fraught with difficulties, from navigating the harsh desert terrain to dealing with the fragile condition of the manuscripts. Additionally, the political climate of the region complicated efforts to study and share the scrolls. At the time, the area was under British mandate, and the outbreak of the Arab-Israeli conflict in 1948 further heightened tensions. Despite these obstacles, the scrolls eventually made their way into the hands of scholars who painstakingly pieced together fragments and began the monumental task of deciphering their contents. The impact of this discovery was immediate and far-reaching. The scrolls not only expanded our understanding of the Bible, but also illuminated a critical period in Jewish history. They revealed the diversity of thought and practice within ancient Judaism, challenging the notion of a single, unified tradition. Furthermore, the scrolls offered insights into the cultural and religious milieu that would eventually give rise to Christianity. As the fragments were studied and published, the world marveled at the richness and complexity of these ancient texts. The Dead Sea Scrolls became a bridge between the ancient and modern worlds, connecting us to the hopes, fears, and beliefs of a community long gone. Yet for all the answers they provided, the scrolls also raised new questions. Who were the Essenes, and what role did they play in shaping these texts? What other writings might still be hidden, waiting to be discovered? And what does the survival of these manuscripts say about the resilience of human knowledge? The story of the Dead Sea Scrolls is not just about the past. It's a journey into the heart of history, faith, and the enduring power of the written word. As we move forward, we will delve deeper into the contents of these scrolls, uncovering the secrets they hold and the mysteries they continue to inspire. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in the Qumran caves opened a doorway into a lost world of ancient thought, belief, and practice. But what exactly are these scrolls, and why are they considered one of the most significant archaeological finds of all time? To understand their true importance, we must examine their content, composition, and the remarkable breadth of texts they encompass. The Dead Sea Scrolls consist of nearly 900 manuscripts, representing tens of thousands of fragments. These texts can be grouped into three main categories: biblical manuscripts, apocryphal writings, and sectarian documents. Each category reveals a different facet of ancient Judaism and its complex relationship with the sacred, the historical, and the eschatological. The biblical texts found among the Dead Sea Scrolls are some of the oldest surviving copies of the Hebrew Bible, predating the Masoretic text, the authoritative Hebrew text of the Jewish Bible, by nearly 1,000 years. Remarkably, these manuscripts include fragments from nearly every book of the Hebrew Bible, with the exception of the Book of Esther. Among the most significant discoveries is the Great Isaiah Scroll, a complete manuscript of the Book of Isaiah dating to approximately 125 BCE. The preservation of these biblical texts provides invaluable insights into the transmission and accuracy of the scriptures. Scholars have marveled at how closely many of these manuscripts align with the versions we know today, affirming the stability of the Hebrew Bible over centuries. At the same time, some variations and additions in these texts suggest a period of fluidity in the biblical tradition, where multiple versions of certain books coexisted. One particularly intriguing example is the Psalm Scroll, which includes psalms not found in the traditional canon. These additional psalms offer a glimpse into the broader spectrum of worship and devotional practices during the Second Temple period, revealing the rich diversity of religious expression in ancient Judaism. In addition to biblical manuscripts, the Dead Sea Scrolls contain a treasure trove of apocryphal and pseudepigraphal writings, texts that were not included in the standard Jewish or Christian canons, but were nonetheless deeply significant to the communities that preserved them. These writings often expand upon or reinterpret biblical narratives, offering alternative perspectives and deeper explorations of theological themes. Among these texts is the Book of Enoch, which elaborates on the brief references to the Nephilim in Genesis, describing the fall of the Watchers, angels who descended to earth and corrupted humanity. The Book of Jubilees, another apocryphal text found among the scrolls, provides a detailed retelling of Genesis and Exodus, complete with a solar calendar that challenges the lunar calendar widely used in Jewish tradition. Another fascinating apocryphal text is the Temple Scroll, one of the longest manuscripts discovered. This text offers detailed instructions for the construction and operation of a temple, reflecting the community's vision of an idealized religious order. The Temple Scroll reveals the Qumran community's intense focus on ritual purity and their desire to restore what they perceived as a lost connection to the divine. These apocryphal writings blur the line between scripture and commentary, suggesting that the boundaries of sacred text were not as rigid as they would later become. They highlight the dynamic and evolving nature of religious tradition during this period, a time when communities were actively engaging with their sacred heritage and reimagining their relationship with God. Perhaps the most unique category of texts within the Dead Sea Scrolls is the sectarian writings, which provide a window into the beliefs, practices, and daily life of the Qumran community. These documents, including the community rule and the war scroll, reflect the distinct identity of the group that likely wrote and preserved the scrolls. The community rule outlines the organization, hierarchy, and rituals of the Qumran sect, emphasizing strict adherence to purity laws and communal living. The text describes a dualistic worldview where the forces of light, the sons of light, are locked in an eternal struggle against the forces of darkness, the sons of darkness. This apocalyptic vision culminates in the War Scroll, which details an epic final battle between these opposing forces, complete with military strategies and divine interventions. These sectarian documents reveal a group that saw itself as a remnant of true Israel, set apart from the corrupt religious institutions of the time. Their writings reflect a deep dissatisfaction with the priesthood in Jerusalem and a belief that they alone held the key to proper worship and interpretation of the law. The scrolls themselves are as fascinating as the texts they contain. They were written on various materials, including parchment, processed animal skin, papyrus, and in one exceptional case, copper. The use of these materials reflects the technological and cultural practices of the time, while their preservation speaks to the unique environmental conditions of the Judean desert. The scripts used in the scrolls include Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, showcasing the multilingual nature of the region during the Second Temple period. Some texts display a highly formal script, suggesting they were intended for ceremonial or public use, while others feature a more cursive style, indicating personal or communal study. The sheer variety of materials, languages, and styles found in the Dead Sea Scrolls underscores their importance as a historical and cultural archive. They provide a snapshot of a diverse and dynamic religious landscape, one that was far from monolithic. Together, the biblical, apocryphal, and sectarian texts of the Dead Sea Scrolls offer an unparalleled glimpse into the religious thought and practice of ancient Judaism. They reveal a world where scripture was not fixed but fluid, where communities engaged deeply with their sacred texts, reinterpreting and reimagining them to meet their spiritual needs. The apocryphal writings in particular challenge our understanding of the boundaries of scripture. Texts like the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees were clearly valued by the Qumran community, yet they were ultimately excluded from the Jewish and Christian canons. Why were these texts deemed unworthy of inclusion? What truths do they contain that were considered too dangerous or too controversial? The sectarian documents, meanwhile, provide a vivid portrait of a community that saw itself as living on the edge of history, awaiting divine intervention to restore the world to its intended order. Their apocalyptic visions and strict adherence to the law reflect a deep sense of urgency and purpose, a belief that they were preparing for a cosmic battle that would determine the fate of humanity. The Dead Sea Scrolls are not just relics of the past. They are a bridge to a time of spiritual exploration and profound theological debate. They reveal a world where the boundaries between sacred and forbidden knowledge were constantly shifting, a world that continues to intrigue and inspire us today. As we turn to the next chapter, we will explore the enigmatic group most often associated with these scrolls, the Essenes. Who were they, and what drove them to preserve these texts in the barren wilderness of Qumran? The answers lie in their story, a story of devotion, conflict, and the pursuit of divine truth. The mystery of the Dead Sea Scrolls is not limited to their content. It also extends to their authors. Who were the people who painstakingly wrote, copied, and preserved these ancient texts? While definitive answers remain elusive, scholars have long speculated that the scrolls are the work of a Jewish sect known as the Essenes. Their story, however, is one of devotion, isolation, and resistance against a turbulent backdrop of religious and political upheaval. The Essenes were a religious group active during the Second Temple period, a time when Judaism was far from monolithic. Alongside the Pharisees and Sadducees, the Essenes represented one of the many factions within the Jewish community, each with its own interpretation of the law and vision of religious life. Unlike the other groups, the Essenes chose to retreat from mainstream society, establishing isolated communities where they could practice their faith in purity and seclusion. One such community is believed to have existed at Qumran, near the caves where the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. Archaeological excavations of the site have revealed a settlement that aligns closely with descriptions of the Essenes found in ancient writings. Historical sources, such as the works of the Jewish historian Flavius Josephus and the Roman writer Pliny the Elder, describe the Essenes as a group committed to communal living, strict discipline, and an ascetic lifestyle. These accounts, combined with the evidence from Qumran, provide a compelling case for linking the Essenes to the scrolls. The Essenes' daily lives were marked by ritual purity and a deep devotion to the study of Scripture. They followed a strict code of conduct, as outlined in texts like the Community Rule, one of the sectarian documents found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. This code emphasized obedience to divine law, communal sharing of property, and a commitment to truth and justice. Members of the community were expected to undergo rigorous initiation rites and adhere to a rigid hierarchy, reflecting their belief in a divinely ordered society. Central to the Essenes' worldview was their apocalyptic vision of history. They saw themselves as the sons of light, chosen by God to stand against the sons of darkness in a cosmic battle between good and evil. This dualistic framework is evident in many of the scrolls, particularly the War Scroll, which provides detailed instructions for the final confrontation. For the Essenes, the preservation of their sacred texts was not just an act of piety, but a preparation for this ultimate struggle. While the Essenes are the most widely accepted authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls, other theories have emerged over time. Some scholars suggest that the scrolls may have been the product of multiple groups, representing a broader spectrum of Jewish thought during the Second Temple period. Others propose that the scrolls were brought to Qumran from Jerusalem or other locations, hidden in the caves during times of crisis to protect them from destruction. These alternative theories highlight the diversity of Jewish beliefs and practices during this era, as well as the challenges of definitively attributing the scrolls to a single group. The question of authorship is further complicated by the presence of texts that do not align with the Essenes' known theology or practices. For example, The inclusion of biblical manuscripts and apocryphal writings suggests that the scrolls may have been part of a larger library, reflecting a wider range of religious perspectives. This diversity raises the possibility that the Qumran caves served as a repository for sacred texts, rather than the exclusive archive of a single sect. Despite these debates, the connection between the Essenes and the Dead Sea Scrolls remains compelling. The sectarian documents in particular provide a vivid portrait of a community that sought to live in perfect alignment with divine will. These texts reveal not only their theological beliefs, but also their daily struggles and aspirations. The Essenes' commitment to preserving their sacred knowledge, even in the face of persecution and adversity, speaks to their unwavering faith and resilience. The historical context in which the Essenes lived adds another layer of complexity to their story. The Second Temple period was marked by intense political and religious tensions as the Jewish people navigated Roman occupation and internal divisions. The Essenes' decision to withdraw from mainstream society can be seen as both a rejection of the established order and a response to the challenges of their time. By isolating themselves in the wilderness, they sought to create a community that reflected their ideals of purity and devotion. Yet their isolation was not absolute. The Essenes were keenly aware of the broader world and its challenges, as evidenced by their apocalyptic writings. They believed that their way of life was not only a reflection of divine law, but also a preparation for the coming of the Messiah and the establishment of God's kingdom on earth. This messianic expectation is a recurring theme in the scrolls, highlighting the deep sense of purpose that guided their actions. The Essenes' focus on prophecy and divine revelation is another key aspect of their identity. They saw themselves as inheritors of a sacred tradition, entrusted with preserving and interpreting the Word of God. This role as custodians of sacred knowledge is evident in the meticulous care with which the scrolls were written and stored. From the precise handwriting to the careful wrapping of the manuscripts, every detail reflects a reverence for the texts and their significance. The Qumran settlement, with its communal dining hall, ritual baths, and scribal workshop, provides further evidence of the Essenes' dedication to their faith. These structures, combined with the scrolls themselves, offer a glimpse into a community that was deeply rooted in its spiritual mission. The Essenes' way of life may have been austere, but it was also profoundly meaningful, shaped by their belief in a divine purpose. As we delve deeper into the Dead Sea Scrolls, the question of authorship continues to fascinate and inspire. Whether they were written solely by the Essenes or represent the contributions of multiple groups, the scrolls stand as a testament to the diversity and richness of Jewish thought during the Second Temple period. They remind us that faith is not a monolithic experience, but a dynamic and evolving journey, shaped by the challenges and aspirations of each generation. The Essenes' story, like the scrolls they preserved, is one of resilience and hope. Their commitment to their beliefs, even in the face of adversity, offers a powerful example of the enduring human spirit. As we move forward, we will explore the content of the Dead Sea Scrolls in greater detail, uncovering the secrets and mysteries that have captivated scholars and seekers alike. The Dead Sea Scrolls are not just a collection of ancient writings. They are a treasure trove of mysteries and revelations that challenge traditional narratives about the Bible and its surrounding traditions. Among the nearly 900 manuscripts discovered, several stand out for their enigmatic content and the questions they raise about the boundaries between sacred and forbidden knowledge. These texts include not only biblical manuscripts, but also apocryphal writings and sectarian documents that shed light on a world of spiritual exploration and theological debate. The scrolls contain a variety of apocryphal texts, many of which expand upon or reinterpret stories from the Hebrew Bible. One of the most famous is the Book of Enoch, a text that provides an elaborate account of the Watchers, angels who descended to earth and introduced forbidden knowledge to humanity. The Book of Enoch paints a vivid picture of these celestial beings and their interactions with humans, describing how they taught skills such as metallurgy, weapon-making, and astrology. These teachings, while beneficial on the surface, ultimately led to chaos and corruption, as humanity misused this knowledge to sow violence and discord. Closely related to the Book of Enoch is the Book of Jubilees, another apocryphal text found among the scrolls. Jubilees offers a retelling of Genesis and parts of Exodus, emphasizing a rigid, chronological structure and a solar calendar. It also delves deeper into the lives of biblical figures, providing details not found in the canonical texts. The inclusion of Jubilees among the Dead Sea Scrolls underscores its importance to the Qumran community and raises questions about why it was excluded from the biblical canon. Another intriguing apocryphal text is the Temple Scroll, one of the longest manuscripts discovered. This text lays out detailed instructions for the construction and operation of an idealized temple, reflecting the Qumran community's vision of a restored religious order. The Temple Scroll emphasizes ritual purity and strict adherence to divine law, echoing the community's broader theological priorities. Its detailed prescriptions for temple worship provide a fascinating glimpse into the aspirations and values of the sect that preserved it. The sectarian documents found among the Dead Sea Scrolls add another layer of mystery and intrigue. These texts, such as the Community Rule and the War Scroll, offer a window into the beliefs and practices of the Qumran community. The Community Rule outlines the organization and governance of the group, emphasizing communal living, ritual purity, and strict discipline. Members were required to undergo a probationary period before full acceptance into the community, reflecting the high standards of commitment expected by the sect. The War Scroll, on the other hand, presents an apocalyptic vision of a final battle between the forces of light and darkness. This text is both a military manual and a theological statement, detailing strategies for combat alongside declarations of divine intervention. The dualistic worldview expressed in the War Scroll reflects the Qumran community's belief in a cosmic struggle between good and evil, a theme that permeates many of the Dead Sea Scrolls. One of the most intriguing aspects of the scrolls is the presence of texts that do not fit neatly into any single category. For example, the Copper Scroll, a unique manuscript inscribed on sheets of copper, stands apart from the other writings in both form and content. The Copper Scroll is essentially a treasure map, listing locations of hidden gold, silver, and other valuables. While its origins and purpose remain unclear, it has sparked countless theories and treasure hunts, adding an air of mystery to the collection. The inclusion of these diverse texts raises important questions about the nature of sacred knowledge and its boundaries. What criteria determined which texts were considered canonical, and why were others excluded? The Dead Sea Scrolls suggest that the process of canonization was not as straightforward as it might seem. Instead, it was shaped by complex social, political, and theological factors, reflecting the diversity of thought within ancient Judaism. The apocryphal writings, in particular, challenged traditional notions of what constitutes scripture. Texts like the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees were clearly valued by the Qumran community, yet they were ultimately left out of the Jewish and Christian canons. This raises questions about the role of power and authority in determining the boundaries of sacred text. Were these writings excluded because they were deemed heretical, or simply because they did not align with the dominant theological perspectives of the time? The sectarian documents, meanwhile, offer a glimpse into a community that saw itself as a custodian of divine truth. The Qumran sect believed that they alone had access to the proper interpretation of the law and the correct way to worship. Their writings reflect a deep sense of purpose and urgency as they sought to preserve their traditions and prepare for the coming of the Messiah. The theological themes explored in the scrolls are as relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago. The tension between tradition and innovation, the boundaries of sacred knowledge, and the nature of divine revelation are questions that continue to resonate. The Dead Sea Scrolls remind us that religious belief is not static but dynamic, constantly evolving in response to new challenges and insights. One of the most profound lessons of the scrolls is the idea that sacred knowledge is not the exclusive domain of a single tradition or group. Instead, it is a tapestry woven from diverse threads, reflecting the complexity of human experience and the richness of spiritual exploration. The scrolls invite us to expand our understanding of what it means to seek the divine, challenging us to embrace the unknown and the mysterious. As we delve deeper into the mysteries of the Dead Sea Scrolls, we are reminded of their enduring relevance and power. These texts are more than historical artifacts. They are windows into a world of faith, struggle, and hope. They challenge us to reconsider our assumptions about the past and inspire us to explore the possibilities of the future. In the next chapter, we will examine why these texts were hidden in the first place, what compelled their authors to store them in the caves of Qumran, and what does this decision tell us about the challenges they faced. The answers lie in the intersection of history, faith, and survival, a story as compelling as the scrolls themselves. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in the Qumran caves raised as many questions as it answered, and one of the most intriguing mysteries revolves around why these texts were hidden in the first place. What compelled the community or individuals responsible for these scrolls to conceal them in remote caves, buried in jars, and left untouched for centuries? To understand this, we must explore the historical, political, and religious context of the time. The period in which the scrolls were hidden was one of profound upheaval for the Jewish people. The Second Temple period, which lasted from 516 BCE until 70 CE, was marked by foreign domination, internal divisions, and increasing tension between the Jewish population and the Roman Empire. This was an era of cultural, religious, and political strife, where different Jewish sects often vied for authority and influence over the faith and its practices. One of the key events leading to the concealment of the scrolls was the First Jewish-Roman War, also known as the Great Revolt, which occurred between 66 and 73 CE. This rebellion was fueled by years of dissatisfaction with Roman rule, heavy taxation, and religious oppression. The revolt culminated in the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, a catastrophic event that fundamentally reshaped Jewish religious and cultural life. Amid this chaos, it is believed that groups like the Essenes, often associated with the Qumran community, feared the loss of their sacred texts and took measures to protect them. The Qumran community likely viewed the preservation of their scrolls as a divine mandate. They believed that these texts contained the keys to understanding God's law, the proper way to worship, and the ultimate fate of humanity. By hiding the scrolls in caves, they sought to safeguard this knowledge from the destruction and desecration that accompanied the Roman conquest. This act of concealment was not only practical but deeply symbolic, an attempt to ensure the survival of their faith and traditions in the face of existential threats. Another reason for hiding the scrolls may lie in the tensions within Judaism itself during the Second Temple period. This was a time of significant diversity within the Jewish community, with various sects such as the Pharisees, Sadducees, and Essenes offering competing interpretations of the law and religious practice. The Essenes, in particular, saw themselves as a righteous remnant chosen by God to uphold the true faith. Their writings reflect a strong sense of opposition to the priesthood in Jerusalem, which they viewed as corrupt and illegitimate. By hiding their scrolls, the Essenes may have been protecting their vision of Judaism from both external enemies and internal rivals. The physical act of hiding the scrolls in jars and caves also suggests a sense of urgency. The Qumran caves are situated in a remote and inhospitable region, surrounded by steep cliffs and barren desert. This location, while difficult to access, offered a natural fortress against invading forces. The decision to store the scrolls in such a challenging environment indicates that their concealment was a last-ditch effort to preserve them during a time of immediate danger. The choice of materials used to store the scrolls further underscores the community's intent to protect them for the long term. The scrolls were placed in clay jars, some of which were sealed to provide additional protection against the elements. The arid conditions of the Judean desert, combined with the care taken in their storage, contributed to the remarkable preservation of these texts over millennia. This foresight suggests that those who hid the scrolls understood the importance of their mission and hoped that their writings would one day be rediscovered. Theories about the reasons for hiding the scrolls also extend beyond historical and religious considerations. Some scholars propose that the scrolls were hidden as part of a broader effort to preserve Jewish culture and knowledge during a time of crisis. The destruction of the Second Temple and the subsequent dispersal of the Jewish population threatened the continuity of religious traditions and practices. By safeguarding these texts, the Qumran community may have been attempting to preserve a record of their beliefs and way of life for future generations. Interestingly, the act of hiding sacred texts is not unique to the Qumran community. Similar practices have been observed in other cultures and religious traditions, where sacred writings were buried or concealed to protect them during times of conflict or persecution. This broader context highlights the universal importance of written knowledge and its role in preserving cultural identity and spiritual heritage. Despite the many theories, some questions remain unanswered. Was the hiding of the Dead Sea Scrolls a coordinated effort by the entire Qumran community, or was it the work of a smaller group, or even an individual? Were the caves intended to serve as temporary hiding places, or were they deliberately chosen for their long-term security? These uncertainties add to the mystique of the scrolls and the people who preserved them. What is clear, however, is that the concealment of the scrolls was an act of faith. It reflects a profound belief in the enduring power of the written word and its ability to transcend the limitations of time and space. The Qumran community's determination to protect their sacred knowledge, even at great personal risk, is a testament to their devotion and resilience. As we continue to uncover the secrets of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the story of their hiding reminds us of the lengths to which people will go to preserve what they hold most sacred. It is a story of survival, resistance, and hope, a story that resonates across cultures and centuries. In the next chapter, we will explore the lasting impact of the Dead Sea Scrolls on modern scholarship and spirituality. How have these ancient texts reshaped our understanding of the Bible, and what do they reveal about the spiritual journeys of those who wrote and preserved them? The answers lie in the profound legacy of this extraordinary discovery. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls was not just a historical milestone. It was a moment that reshaped our understanding of religion, history, and the human quest for meaning. Over 70 years after their unearthing, the scrolls continue to inspire scholars, theologians, and seekers of knowledge. Their influence reaches far beyond the confines of academic study, offering profound insights into the development of religious traditions and the enduring power of sacred texts. One of the most significant impacts of the Dead Sea Scrolls is their contribution to biblical scholarship. The scrolls include some of the oldest known copies of Hebrew Bible texts, with fragments of almost every book of the Old Testament represented. These manuscripts, which predate the Masoretic text by nearly 1,000 years, have provided a rare opportunity to study the evolution of biblical texts over time. The consistency between the scrolls and later versions of the Hebrew Bible affirms the reliability of the transmission process, while variations in certain passages highlight the dynamic nature of scriptural interpretation in the ancient world. The scrolls have also deepened our understanding of the diversity within ancient Judaism. The Second Temple period, during which the scrolls were written, was a time of religious plurality and intense theological debate. The Dead Sea Scrolls reflect this diversity, containing texts that represent a wide range of beliefs and practices. The sectarian writings, in particular, offer a window into the unique worldview of the Qumran community, with its emphasis on ritual purity, apocalyptic expectation, and strict adherence to the law. Beyond their theological implications, the Dead Sea Scrolls have illuminated the cultural and historical context of the Second Temple period. The scrolls provide valuable information about the social, political, and religious dynamics of the time, shedding light on the tensions between different Jewish sects and the broader Roman world. This historical backdrop helps us understand the forces that shaped the development of Judaism and later Christianity. For Christians, the Dead Sea Scrolls hold special significance because they provide a glimpse into the religious milieu in which Jesus and his followers lived. The scrolls reveal a world where messianic expectations, apocalyptic visions, and debates over the interpretation of the law were central to religious life. While the Qumran community's beliefs and practices were distinct from those of early Christians, the parallels are striking. Both groups shared a sense of living in an eschatological age, awaiting the fulfillment of God's promises. The scrolls thus provide a richer understanding of the environment that gave rise to Christianity. The apocryphal texts found among the scrolls have also sparked renewed interest in the boundaries of sacred scripture. Writings like the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees challenge traditional notions of what constitutes the canon, inviting us to reconsider the processes by which certain texts were included or excluded from religious traditions. These apocryphal works offer alternative perspectives on biblical stories and themes, expanding our understanding of ancient Jewish thought. The impact of the Dead Sea Scrolls extends beyond religious and academic circles. Their discovery has captured the public imagination, inspiring countless books, documentaries, and even fictional works. The scrolls symbolize the enduring allure of ancient mysteries and the human desire to uncover hidden truths. Their story, a tale of chance discovery, painstaking preservation, and scholarly pursuit, resonates with people across cultures and backgrounds. In addition to their cultural and historical significance, the Dead Sea Scrolls have practical implications for the preservation of ancient texts. The techniques developed to conserve and study the scrolls have advanced the field of manuscript preservation, setting new standards for the care of fragile historical artifacts. Innovations such as multispectral imaging have allowed scholars to read previously illegible fragments, unlocking new insights into these ancient writings. The scrolls have also sparked important debates about ownership and access to cultural heritage. The question of who owns the Dead Sea Scrolls has been a source of controversy, particularly given the political tensions in the region where they were discovered. This issue raises broader questions about the stewardship of ancient artifacts and the responsibility to share knowledge with the global community. For modern readers, the Dead Sea Scrolls offer not only historical insights, but also spiritual inspiration. The writings reflect a profound sense of devotion, a commitment to preserving sacred knowledge, and a deep engagement with questions of morality, justice, and divine purpose. They remind us that the search for meaning and truth is a timeless endeavor, one that transcends the boundaries of culture and tradition. The Dead Sea Scrolls also challenge us to think critically about the nature of sacred texts. What makes a text sacred? How do religious communities determine which writings to include in their canons, and what happens to those that are excluded? The scrolls invite us to explore these questions, encouraging a more nuanced understanding of the relationship between tradition, authority, and faith. Perhaps the most enduring legacy of the Dead Sea Scrolls is their ability to bridge the gap between past and present. They connect us to a world that, while vastly different from our own, grapples with many of the same questions and concerns. The scrolls remind us of our shared humanity and the power of the written word to transcend time, preserving the hopes, fears, and beliefs of those who came before us. As we reflect on the impact of the Dead Sea Scrolls, it becomes clear that their discovery was not just an academic milestone, but a profound moment of connection between the ancient and the modern. They challenge us to consider how we preserve and interpret our own sacred traditions and what future generations might learn from the texts we leave behind. In the next and final chapter, we will reflect on the remaining mysteries of the Dead Sea Scrolls. What secrets might still be hidden in the caves of Qumran or elsewhere in the world? And what do the scrolls teach us about the enduring human quest for truth and understanding? The journey is far from over. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls answered many questions about the past, but it also left behind a lingering sense of mystery. For every fragment pieced together and deciphered, there are countless questions that remain unanswered. What secrets might still be buried in the caves of Qumran or in other forgotten corners of the ancient world? And what can the story of these scrolls teach us about the enduring human quest for truth and understanding? The Dead Sea Scrolls were uncovered by chance, and it is tempting to wonder how many other treasures of antiquity lie hidden, waiting for an accidental discovery. The Judean desert, with its endless stretches of cliffs and caves, is an archaeologist's dream and a reminder of how much remains unknown. In the decades following the initial discovery, expeditions to Qumran and the surrounding areas have uncovered additional fragments, but scholars believe there could be more, perhaps even complete scrolls, concealed in undiscovered locations. One of the most tantalizing mysteries is the content of the fragments that remain unreadable. Despite advances in technology, many of the scrolls are too damaged or degraded to be fully deciphered. Multispectral imaging and other cutting-edge techniques have allowed researchers to recover previously unseen text, but there are limits to what current technology can achieve. As methods improve, it is possible that new insights will emerge from the fragments, revealing additional details about the lives, beliefs, and struggles of the Qumran community. Beyond the physical scrolls themselves, there are broader questions about the purpose and legacy of these texts. Why were certain writings, such as the Book of Jubilees and the Book of Enoch, excluded from the biblical canon? Were these decisions purely theological, or were they influenced by political and cultural considerations? The Dead Sea Scrolls challenge us to re-examine the processes by which sacred texts are defined, and to consider how different religious traditions might have evolved if these writings had been included. The scrolls also invite speculation about the identity and motivations of their authors. While the Essenes are the most likely candidates, other possibilities remain. Could the scrolls represent the work of multiple groups, each contributing to a shared library of sacred knowledge? Or were they the product of a single cohesive community that saw itself as the custodian of divine truth? These questions highlight the complexity and diversity of Jewish thought during the Second Temple period and remind us that history is rarely as clear-cut as it seems. Another enduring mystery is the treasure map described in the Copper Scroll. This unique manuscript, inscribed on sheets of copper, lists locations where vast amounts of gold, silver, and other valuables are supposedly hidden. Unlike the other texts, which focus on theology and law, the Copper Scroll stands out for its practical and material content. Scholars remain divided over whether the treasures described are real or symbolic, but the possibility of hidden riches continues to capture the imagination of treasure hunters and historians alike. The enduring allure of the Dead Sea Scrolls is not just about their content, but also about what they represent. They are a testament to the resilience of human knowledge and the lengths to which people will go to preserve what they hold sacred. The Qumran community, whoever they were, believed deeply in the importance of their mission. They risked everything to safeguard their texts, knowing that they might never live to see their rediscovery. Their faith in the enduring power of the written word is a powerful reminder of the role that knowledge plays in shaping our understanding of the world. The story of the Dead Sea Scrolls also challenges us to reflect on our own relationship with history and tradition. What texts, ideas, or knowledge might we be neglecting or discarding today that could be of profound importance in the future? How do we decide what is worth preserving, and what happens to the voices that are left out of the narrative? The scrolls remind us that history is often written by those in power, but the truth has a way of surviving, even in the most unlikely places. For modern audiences, the Dead Sea Scrolls are more than ancient artifacts. They are windows into a time of profound spiritual exploration and transformation. They speak to universal themes of faith, resilience, and the search for meaning, resonating across cultures and centuries. Their story is a reminder that the quest for truth is ongoing and that even the smallest fragment can hold the key to unlocking new understanding. As we close this journey into the mysteries of the Dead Sea Scrolls, one question remains: what other secrets are still waiting to be uncovered? From the unexplored caves of Qumran to the untapped archives of history, the past continues to beckon us with its whispers of forgotten wisdom. The scrolls have shown us that knowledge is never truly lost. It is merely waiting to be found. The Dead Sea Scrolls stand as a bridge between the ancient and the modern, a testament to the enduring power of the written word and the human spirit. They challenge us to look deeper, to question more, and to never stop seeking the truth. Their discovery was not an end, but a beginning, a reminder that the greatest mysteries are often just the first chapter of a much larger story.